Hare Krishna, everyone. So, thank you everyone for having me here. Very nice to see you, Dharmendra Prabhu and Krishna Priya Prabhu. My sincere and humble obeisances to you. Thank you for being here, for encouraging me. You are such a stalwart devotee for so many years. I'm so inspired by seeing you every day in the morning in the temple. Okay, so without much ado, it's a very, very difficult one, very difficult chapter we have on hand today. So I might actually fight with organizers for giving this whole chapter in for one single session, for one single hour. But let's just start quickly. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should chant the holy names of the Lord in the humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. One should be ready to offer all respect to others and expect none in return. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hriday Anthasto Hai Abhadrani Vidhunoti Shuhit Satam Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jnanati Yasho Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam Yasyam Vaishruyamananam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumsa Shokamoha Bhaya Apaha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so thank you all for joining. Today we are discussing chapter number 8 from first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll just take you through the background, the history. From chapter 7th, the Srimad Bhagavatam actually began. The actual discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam began. Before chapter 7, there was a context of Srimad Bhagavatam as to how Sukdev Goswami came along the banks of Ganga, and how Parikshit Maharaj was brought there. And from the chapter 7th, the actual katha of Srimad Bhagavatam began, wherein you saw the very first pastime of Ashwatthama getting punished for his heinous act. And today, in the chapter 8, there is a continuation from the previous chapter, which is the 7th chapter. So this chapter is essentially divided in 4 parts. The beginning portion is continuation from chapter 7, where the Pandavas are very grieving. They are doing the last rites for their dead sons. And then, once they're doing the last rites of the dead sons, Krishna is trying to console them. And there are many Rishi Munis assembled there. They're all trying to console the Pandavas, essentially. Moving further, when Krishna and all the Pandavas are back from this last rite ceremony, and Krishna is about to then leave Hastinapur and go back to Dwarka, because the Krishna has been with Pandavas for a very long time, and residents of Dwarka were eagerly waiting for Krishna. As soon as Krishna greets everyone, communicates his goodbyes, what happens is Ashwatthama was very much insulted. They didn't kill him. You must have read this in previous chapter, right? They chopped off his hair from different places and made him bald from portions of hair places only. So essentially, he was very, very humiliated. And this treatment of humiliation was also given to Jayadratha, which is another character in Mahabharata. When he tried to again insult Draupadi, then this was the similar treatment meted out to him at that time. So it is extremely humiliating, because someone looks very funny, when portion of a hair is taken from here, then you're bald, then your portion of a hair you look like a cartoon character. So he was extremely humiliated, and in this humiliation, he misused his powers, and he released Brahmastra to kill Pandavas and to kill the last descendant of Pandavas, who was in the womb of Uttara, who was actually Parikshit Maharaj himself. So Krishna then saves Parikshit Maharaj in the womb, and he saves Pandavas. And then, seeing all of this, Kunti Maharani, then, should I say, she just offers the best portion of her existence to Krishna in the form of prayers. And this is ever solidified and ever glorified in the hearts of the Vaishnavas, because they are the most deepest prayers you can ever come across. Followed by Kunti Maharani's prayers. Krishna is wanted to leave, but Yudhishthir Maharaj doesn't let him leave, because Yudhishthir Maharaj is in extreme distress, and he thinks that he is responsible for all the deaths that have happened in Mahabharata, and everyone's trying to console him, but he's extremely distressed. He's not consolable, even by the great Rishi Munis like Vyasadev, who is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many other great Rishi Munis assembled there, and also Lord Krishna himself. Yudhishthir Maharaj won't even listen to Krishna. So then the last portion of the chapter is just Yudhishthir Maharaj, Krishna trying to console Yudhishthir Maharaj. So this is just a very high level summary, but coming back to the very first portion of this chapter is when the sons of Pandavas were killed overnight by Ashwatthama, then Pandavas, of course, insulted Ashwatthama, and now they were all walking. They finished the last rite ceremonies, and the family was walking towards the river Ganga. And it's an ancient tradition that people, after burning someone up, the dear one up, they would walk towards Ganga and take bath. Even till this day, people come back home, and first thing they do after coming from Samshan is they first take bath. They want to purify themselves. And it's important that in that bath, there should be a few drops of Ganga water, because only the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, which is present in Ganga water, it can purify you from inside and outside. And as part of this tradition, the ladies walk ahead and the men walk behind. And this is followed even till date in India, if you can see. And then after taking bath from the Ganga water, the Pandavas were together as a family, and there were Rishi Munis, and of course there was Krishna, and they were all grieving because there has been so much death and chaos in the family. Everyone they could think of, everyone they loved was not existing anymore. So some of us might be able to empathize, but even to sympathize with this is a little bit difficult, because we are not in this situation where every second person you love in the family is no more. So grandfathers, friends, uncles, your own sons, so it was extremely distressed situation. And in this situation, Krishna was there with Krishna was cousin of the Pandavas, so he was there with them. Krishna was also aggrieved, but Krishna was trying to console Yudhishthir Maharaj. He was trying to console the Pandavas. And I would like to bring to your attention verse 1.8.5. This is an interesting verse, because let me just share my screen if possible. So sharing my screen. Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Please, someone give me permission.
It should be okay now, Prabhu.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Screen sharing. Desktop 2, is it? Desktop 2. Share. Let me know when you see my screen. Okay, super. So thank you for the thumbs up. So I'm just going to quickly read the translation here. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthir, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhan were killed by him. Others also died. Their duration of Others also died, their duration of life having being decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. You see, what's written here is because they insulted a chaste lady, Queen Draupadi, their duration of life had been reduced. And Prabhupada, in this specific purport, he goes on to say that in this age of Kali, these 5 things are not protected. The protection of Brahmanas is definitely not there. Brahmanas are not protected, so no one is a first class Brahmana, because these days Brahmanas have to be paid, no one takes care of them, no one pays them, no one takes care of them completely. So every Brahmana has to fend for himself. There is cow protection is no more. Cow protection is important because it gives milk, which is really important for the finer brain tissues. In fact, there is now veganism, which now makes cows a demon, and now all of a sudden the cows are releasing some methane kind of gas into the atmosphere, so they are pollutants in the modern day Kali Yuga. So they are trying somehow to completely vanquish this culture of having cows towards the center of human life. Protection of women is also decreasing. The chastity of the women is at stake most of the times. I remember previous work that I used to work in, the only joke would be around, you can assume, right, what jokes would be. Stand-up comedies, you go to any stand-up comedies for Christmas parties, this is all vulgar. It's very centered towards women, and it's a lot of the time the modern day society is objectified it. Protection of children gives human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. If children are not given chance to grow properly, then they will not set good examples themselves. So protection of children is really important, but the modern day media is completely damaging children. It's really playing with their fickle minds, and causing unrepairable damage, because they show things, violence and a lot of stuff to children, and their minds are easily manipulated. So there is also degrading protection of children. And lastly, and most importantly, the protection of old men, because it gives them chance to prepare better for their life after death. So these 5 things, they have gone down in Kali Yuga, and Prabhupada says that if someone plays with the chastity of a woman and with all of these fives, their duration of life is reduced. And Prabhupada mentions that this is one of the reasons that people in Kali Yuga live less. People in other ages had longer lives. So people in Dwapar Yuga, they used to live like 1,000 years. And the references to this can also be found in Bible. There are certain characters in Bible which are mentioned who had lived 400 years. Even so the transition from the Dwapar Yuga to Kali Yuga, we have seen the lifespan has been decreasing, and there has been a documentation of all of this. Similarly, between Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga, the life was 10,000 years, and it has decreased further. Why? Because of degradation of these five factors. And important point is when this bad incident had happened with Draupadi, and Draupadi was in extreme distress, and of course she was protected by Krishna, right? Krishna came as a sari, and Krishna protected Draupadi. And so Krishna protected Draupadi. On that day, Krishna was not there physically at that time, right? The sari had been present at that time. Krishna was providing the sari. Krishna then came to see Draupadi separately, and Draupadi, was in her chambers. And when Krishna came, Krishna was the only person in that entire arena who actually had helped Draupadi. There was no other person who helped Draupadi. Those people who felt that they are helpless, they had to leave that arena, but still they couldn't help Draupadi. So when Krishna came to see Draupadi after this incident, Draupadi was all in tears. She just couldn't stop crying. She was with Krishna, and Krishna, was trying. Krishna and Draupadi had friendly relationships, so they considered each other as good friends, and of course they had family relationship also. So Draupadi also knew that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and Draupadi wept and wept, wept and wept, and Krishna was feeling the pain of Draupadi. He was feeling intense pain of Draupadi, and in such a moment, Krishna could have said that, look, we are not the body, we are the soul, and all of this is temporary. There is sometimes heat, sometimes cold, sometimes respect, sometimes disrespect. He could have said these things to Draupadi, but what Krishna said that all those people who have touched your hair, their wives will be widowed in a very short time. Do you understand what kind of statement this is? This is a vow of the Supreme Lord. And after that, after, so this was on the incident, near the time of this incident. After many months, Krishna took peace deal to Duryodhan, that even if you give us 5 villages, we won't fight. But actually, that was not the case. Krishna had made up his mind the day Draupadi was touched. The day the chastity of a pure lady is touched, or a pure lady is insulted, it brings about disaster in the whole society, whole human society. This is about, we're speaking about one single chaste lady. It caused so much war, so much death, so much chaos. But important point is, Krishna, being the supreme person, he listens to you as a human being, as a person. He vowed on that day that all of those people will be killed. And here now, this Bhagavatam chapter that we are reading, this is after all of that. And the Bhagavatam is also ascertaining the same thing, that all those were killed who touched the hair of Draupadi, right? And Krishna was so repentant. When Draupadi was in distress, Krishna didn't come immediately. Krishna came right at the end when Draupadi said Govinda. When she said Govinda, she shouted out for Krishna. That's when Krishna came to protect her. So when Krishna was leaving this material world, and you will learn about this in 3rd canto, when someone is leaving the material world, they are very sober. They are, they just speak out their heart. They say sorry. Prabhupada was saying, if I had said something wrong, please forgive me, to his god brothers. You know what Krishna was saying when Krishna was departing? Krishna was regretting, oh, I was late when Draupadi had called me. So this is the nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is very much hurt when his devotees are hurt. Supreme Lord is very much wanting to protect his devotees, and Supreme Lord is very much into the distress of the devotees. So here, specifically 1.8.5, Krishna, it's Bhagavatam, it is stressing that if someone does any mischief with these 5 things, Brahmanas, protection of the Brahmanas, the cows, the chastity of women, and the chastity of women is specifically mentioned, then it results in reduction of the duration of their lifespan, and they can die untimely. So Prabhupada says in this purport that the insult, a brother of Duryodhana insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. So this is the law of the Lord. Okay, so moving further, verse 8.6 is just mentioning mainly about equality of the Lord, that, Krishna is really equal to everyone. Prabhupada mentions in his purport that Krishna, he doesn't side with anyone, but he is always favorable to his devotees. Just like, sun gives rays to everyone, no matter if someone is poor or rich, the sunlight is equally available to everyone. Similarly, Lord, he doesn't take sides, he is equal to everyone. And then moving on to the further verses, it said that when Krishna started to leave, after this whole grieving session was finished, Krishna wanted to go back to Dwarka. So when he was starting to go out to Dwarka, then all the sages assembled there, including Vyasdev, who is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. He also came there, and he greeted Krishna his goodbyes. Now, according to the social customs, Brahmanas are not supposed to come forward and bend or greet the Kshatriyas, because Brahmanas were a higher priestly class, and Kshatriyas, they were supposed to be obedient to the Brahmanas. But every single saintly person assembled there, including Vyasadev, who is the head of all the Brahmanas, the leader of everyone, he knew Krishna is not an ordinary person. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So he respected Krishna, and Krishna, in reciprocation, he still behaved like an ordinary man as a Kshatriya, and he paid obeisances back to them. And this is the most beautiful thing about Krishna, is that in all other incarnations of the Lord does not claim that he is the Supreme Lord. And most of the times his pastimes are very limited. But specifically in the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra and pastimes of Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna completely and clearly says that I am the Supreme Lord. He can't hide it, because he is the Supreme Lord. There is no way it is possible for him to cover this up. He's not an incarnation, he's not an Amsha, he's not an expansion, he's the Supreme Lord. And in spite of being Supreme Lord, he follows these customs, he follows these social customs. And Prabhupada writes it in this purport that the Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future. So Krishna doesn't have to offer respects to these Brahmanas, but because he was a Kshatriya, he was still playing it like that. And even amongst Pandavas, he would always, whenever he will meet Pandavas, he would always pay respects to Yudhishthir first, because Yudhishthir was even elder to Krishna. So he would always pay respects to Yudhishthir. So, so Lord is now leaving, and as he is leaving, the Brahmanas are coming, and he's greeting to everyone. And then suddenly, there is this sudden twist and turn in the story, where Uttara, she starts running towards Krishna. And she is telling that, and this is one of my favorite verses, I tried to memorize it many years ago, 1.8.9. She says, Uttara uvacha pahi pahi mahayogin deva deva jagatpate na anyam tvat abhayam pashe yatra mrityu parasparam. So she's saying, please protect me, O my Lord, because you are actually the supreme mystic. Na anyam tvat abhayam pashe. in this material world, everyone is fearful. We are actually bound by these ropes of fear. What will happen if my job goes away? What will happen if my son falls sick? What will happen if I'm old? What will happen if I'm young? There is this countless number of fears which is actually gripping us day in and day out. And in this verse, she is saying that there is no other way to break this rope of fear other than you, O my Lord, because we are stuck in this material world. Yatra mrityu parasparam. In the place where mrityu or death is guaranteed, it's a fact of life. In such a place where we are always surrounded by fears, only you are the supreme mystic who can always give us protection. So Uttara, when she came running like this, Krishna immediately understood there is something wrong. And then he could know that, oh, this disgraced Ashwathama, he has thrown this Brahmastra weapon to actually kill now Pandavas and this last son who is in the womb of Uttara. So Uttara is actually the wife of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is the son of Subhadra and Arjun. So Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. So we have Mother Subhadra. So Subhadra was actually wife of Arjun. And Subhadra and Arjun had a son called Abhimanyu, who was killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But Abhimanyu had actually married Uttara. Uttara is actually daughter of, I think, Matsya king, Matsya Pradesh. There was a king in the kingdom of Matsya, which is current day Pakistan. And that king's daughter was Uttara. And how did Abhimanyu marry Uttara? When Arjuna was cursed and the Pandavas were cursed to actually go in exile for 14 years, the last part of their exile was that they would be incognito. No one should be able to identify them. So in that last year of incognito, they hid themselves in this place called Matsya Pradesh. Matsya literally translates to fish in Sanskrit. But Madhya Pradesh is essentially Pakistan area. So the king there, they all became different, people in that kingdom. And in that place, Arjuna, who was at that time a eunuch, he was teaching dancing to Uttara. And Uttara was very dear student of Arjun at that time, who was a eunuch. And Arjuna thought that she was really nice, well qualified with all nice qualities for his son Abhimanyu. So this is how Abhimanyu and Uttara got married. And then they had before the war began, so Uttara was pregnant. And so Uttara wanted to actually die when Abhimanyu was dead. But Uttara didn't die after his husband's death because she was pregnant. She wanted to take care of her child. So she lived on. And Ashwathama, knowing that, in the womb of Uttara is the last descendant of Pandavas, he wanted to kill even that descendant because he had already killed all the sleeping sons of Pandavas, right, in the night, in the previous chapter. So now this Ashwathama, he releases actually, it is said that, he released 6 Brahmastras, 5 for the Pandavas and 1 for the Uttara. And Prabhupada says that this Brahmastra is not like a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb is, it causes more destruction than it should. But Brahmastra is more secretive as a weapon. It can enter any area of a human body. But it always kills its target, never kills anything else. So, so Krishna, knowing all this situation, the Pandavas were trying to pick up their weapons, and you will learn in 12th chapter of the first canto this whole pastime in a little bit more detail. But I'll just give you some knowledge around it. Is Krishna quickly protected the Pandavas himself from the Brahmastra, and then Krishna expanded himself and entered into the womb of Uttara and covered the womb of Uttara. So as to protect the Parikshit Maharaj. But this pastime, it will take 1.5 to 2 hours to explain. It is extremely graphic. This intense heat of Brahmastra is falling on this embryo. An embryo is burning in heat. It can't understand. And this embryo is not an ordinary embryo. This is Parikshit Maharaj, who by his birth is a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas, they fight and they will die fighting. without giving you a fight, they won't die. So he was fighting this heat and he almost lost the battle because Brahmastra, who can win? And then enters Krishna. And Krishna was the size of a thumb. So if you have thumb, if you all can take your thumb and just do it like that. So upper portion of the thumb. Spurat Puratamolinam. The verse is extremely beautiful. Parikshit Maharaj at that time saw Krishna the size of a thumb with a golden helmet. I don't know how many of you have seen Krishna movie of children. Every time Krishna is about to kill a demon, suddenly a golden helmet appears. So this is written in Bhagavatam, okay? This is not a joke. So actually Parikshit Maharaj saw Krishna coming at intense speed, entering into the womb of the size of a thumb with a golden helmet. And I don't know how many of you have seen, there is this hexagonal energy that's going on, which, every time you see this picture of Vishnu with 4 arms, you have this energy figure going on, which is like elliptical in diagonal directions. So he saw Krishna like that with his energy and with Krishna coming, and Parikshit Maharaj was almost dead. He was somehow or the gasping for life. And I think in some place it's written that he actually died because of the heat of Brahmastra fighting he couldn't bear, and Krishna brought him back to life. But anyway, so all of this is discussed in 12th chapter. So I'll pause there. I can't go in further details, but it is amazing. Just to read it, even to read it, to understand, to read it slowly is, I can't tell you, it's cherry on top. Just read it super slow. Read it again and again, and your heart will be filled with joy and memory, which will be everlasting. I don't know. I read this, 2011. After that, I have never read it. I read this in 2011 and this is 2022. So 10 years have passed. And I'm amazed how this has stuck to me, because the time I read this, I was almost about to sleep, but this was so exhilarating a pastime. So this is what happened with Uttara when so Krishna protected Krishna protected the Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. He protected the Pandavas, and after Krishna had protected Parikshit Maharaj and Pandavas, Queen Kunti was observing this. And now Queen Kunti, her prayers are starting from verses 1.8.18. So Queen Kunti, she in her life, she has gone all the upheavals of life. Anyone can imagine she's gone through everything. Her husband, no more, right? And in her youth, she lost her husband. Then, she's left with 5 children and she's struggling. When she comes back to her rightful place in the kingdom, then there are people who were constantly troubling her children. When they wanted to get education, they wouldn't let the same teacher teach both of them, but because Duryodhana was causing issues, and every now and then Duryodhana was trying to poison his children. They were not given their position at any point in their entire life. When they were exiled, they were sent to place in a forest where the palace for a holiday. They were sent on a holiday to a palace in the forest, and that palace was made up of wax, and the plan was to actually kill them. There was not one day in her life that was going without anxiety. That was the case. That was the situation of Queen Kunti. And Queen Kunti, she begins her prayers to Lord Shri Krishna like that. Let me just share my screen again. Resume share. So Srimati Kunti, she starts her prayers, and in the very first words, she's trying to tell to Krishna that, Krishna, look, you are really not my nephew. I know you are the Supreme Lord. And she says that, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality. You are the supreme original person. You are the controller, unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all. So it's like, Queen Kunti is telling the Supreme Lord that actually you are not my nephew. You're not an ordinary person. You're the Supreme Lord. Krishna then can counteract with the question, okay, if I'm within and without and I'm everywhere, why is not everyone worshipping me? And so she herself answers this question in the next verse, and she says that because you are actually beyond the range of the limited sense perception, you are covered by Maya, you are covered by your illusory energy, you are eternally irreproachable factor covered by curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer. I'm repeating this. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed up as a player is not recognized. So she is telling that you are everywhere, you are within and without, but no one can actually reach you because you have to be really intelligent. Krishna says the same in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janma Namante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyate. One who is in real knowledge. Real knowledge means knowledge of the subject matter and ability to apply that knowledge. Real knowledge doesn't mean reading all the scriptures and becoming an expert in the knowledge of the scriptures. Real knowledge means able to apply the knowledge at free will. And that's why Prabhupada says, even if someone reads one word of my book, his life will be successful. Why? Because if he reads that one word and actually realizes that one word and actually lives his life by that one word, it's guaranteed that the person will get full success. So essential point is that she understands that most of the people, they won't understand Krishna because they are covered by the curtain of Maya. Krishna is beyond the sense perception, and Krishna is not available for a foolish observer, because Krishna is always hidden. He's like an actor. And so you have to really know the person to actually understand the person. And then she further in humility, she says that how can a woman like me really, how can then can we women know you perfectly? She's saying, how can then we know you? Because if the great philosophers can't understand you, the transcendentalists don't understand you, then how we can understand? She's not misogynist here. She's just saying that how can we as a woman understand you when the great personalities are not able to understand you? The transcendentalists who go to different places, they can't understand you. Then how can we as simple women really understand you? So in essence, she's saying that actually, you can't, the real meaning is she's saying that you can't be understood by what great transcendentalists, you can't be understood by, mental speculators or philosophers, but because you can only be understood by prema bhakti, only by devotional service. This is what her real intention from the heart is. Because after this verse, she says that because you are understood by Devaki and Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj and Devaki, they do prema bhakti to Krishna. So by this verse, she's actually meaning that you yourself descend to propagate transcendental signs of devotional service into the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators. So she's saying you give the signs of yourself to both the advanced transcendentalists and to fools. Because if you don't give, there is no way anyone can get it. And this is the same point Arjuna says, I think in 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, "Oh Lord, you please tell me about yourself. Because if you don't tell, there is nothing in this whole creation that will be able to explain us who you are." If someone is the supreme, then by definition of the word supreme, they are ever expanding, unlimited. And if that unlimited doesn't explain to you what's their nature, form, and shape, then there is no way that a limited living entity, us, will be able to understand unlimited. A limited cannot understand unlimited till the point unlimited actually tells you about themselves. This is what Arjun says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is when Krishna actually starts saying, among the stars, I am the moon. Among the fishes, I am the shark. Among the seasons, I am this month. You have a huge list. And then Krishna repeats that in 10th chapter. And that is actually the mercy of the Lord. If he doesn't tell us those things, we will not know it. And similarly here, Kunti Maharani is saying that the transcendentalists and mental speculators, they can know you only when you tell them about yourself. Otherwise, no one can actually understand you what to speak about women like me? And she's just being humble here. And she's in the next verse, she says that actually, but people who do loving devotional service unto you, they can know you. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudev, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and cowherd and other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and enliver of the cows and the senses. So she is paying obeisances to the Lord, remembering these devotees who are purest of the purest of the pure. So this is a theme of Bhagavatam. Any pure devotee always remembers a higher version of the pure devotee. When Bhishma Dev is dying on the bed of arrows, he is actually remembering gopis. And he's praying his obeisances to gopis. Bhishma Dev is a Mahajan. He doesn't have to remember gopis on his deathbed, but he remembers gopis on his deathbed. This is the humility of the pure devotees. They never speak about themselves, but they are always wanting to. Now, Queen Kunti's prayers are so adorable. They, just to even hear them is purifying. And here she is. She's glorifying whom? Son of Devaki, son of Vasudev and Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enliver of the cows and senses. So she's in that mood. She's, and then she goes on to say that actually, I am more fortunate than Devaki, and I'm more fortunate than Nanda. Why I'm more fortunate than both of them? Because Kamsa killed 6 brothers of Krishna, who from the Devaki's womb. Did Krishna protect his 6 brothers? No, he didn't protect the 6 brothers. They were killed. But Queen Kunti is saying in the next verse, but my sons were protected by you again and again and again and again. Every single time they were in danger, you came and you protected them. So in reality, in real sense, I am even more fortunate than Devaki and Nanda Maharaj. Sorry, Vasudeva and Devaki. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with the garlands of lotus flower, whose glance is as cool as the lotus flower, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So she's starting the main verse that Lord's bodily features are very powerful. And she's saying that I'm extremely more fortunate than those people. But also I'm very fortunate because I can see your beautiful form. And once she starts thinking like this, that I'm actually more fortunate because I can see my Lord every day. I can see his beautiful form. And as soon as she thinks about the beautiful form, the first thing she thinks is that my Lord is completely like lotus. His legs are so soft. His eyes are so soft. His eyes are so beautiful. And, because she's actually aunt, so she doesn't go, she starts from the waist. She doesn't go below the waist because she's in relation, she's an aunt. So, she starts describing the Lord from his waist upwards. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. So, I think you have heard this many times. Oh Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, is Pankaja Maline, always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraced with lotuses. So, like that, she is describing the Supreme Lord, in relation to lotus, and it's just, I wanted to describe it in more detail, but it's just no time. So so she's she's telling that let there be calamities repeatedly. This is the verse 25, where she's she in this 23rd and 24th verses, she's saying that you have always protected us from calamities, and you have protected us when from this from the poisoned cake, from the great fire, that I told you about the wax house that they were put in. So here they say, Vishan, which is the poison, Maha Agnihi, the great fire, which is, when they were in this, they were on holiday, and Duryodhan cunningly told them, why don't you take a break? You have been so tired, working tirelessly. Why don't you take a break? I'll arrange for your holiday. And then he got them to live in a house which was all made up of wax, and he planned them to kill overnight. So there also Krishna, protected them. Krishna protected them from cannibals, Hidimba, and then Vicious Assembly, which is the gambling match. And then in the exile also, there were too many tribulations. Too many tribulations. If you read Mahabharata, you will see what this lady had to go through. It's beyond words. I told you I can't sympathize, I can't empathize. It's just not possible. But when you read, you can understand. Your hairs will stand on its end when you see every single day was made up of extreme sufferings for this person, Draupadi. Sorry, for Kunti. And then, when there was battlefield going on, every now and then she was hearing the death of so many near and dear ones. And finally this Ashwatthama, he killed all her grandsons, and now the last remaining grandson also he was about to kill, and Krishna protected. So with all of this, this happening in her life, she understood that in all of these things that have been happening to me in my life, there was one person, Krishna. He was the only solace. There was no one else in my entire life that was giving me this protection from anywhere other than Krishna. So, she's saying that actually, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again. And this becomes the climax of devotion, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. So this, she's saying that actually these dangers are great blessings. Why these dangers are great blessings? Because every time a danger comes, we can remember you, O Lord. If the dangers don't come, then our memory of you fades away. So can we also pray like this? Can we really pray like this? I don't know. Maybe some of you can. Someone who has gone through a lot in life can actually pray like this, because they might have got more happiness in their distress than happiness in their happy state. Because happiness for a devotee is characterized by how much they remember Krishna, how much they serve the devotees, and how much, even serving the devotees, how much to what degree they're, it's loving devotional service. What's the remembrance of Krishna? And hence, by the standards of Bhagavatam, the real gift of Bhagavatam is remembrance of Krishna, which we discussed in the very first session. And here is the perfect example, which is Kunti Maharani, which is repeating the same thing. I wish that all those calamities would happen and again, so that we can see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. And she's saying actually, and what she says, what she's implying and what she's saying is, in reality, the security of this material world is actually a danger. The secure positions that we are in, she understands that that is the most bigger danger by this verse, by this statement. Because when we are in secure situations, we can't remember Krishna so much. Do you know who's another devotee who is saying exactly the same in Bhagavatam? Anyone? Exactly the same in Bhagavatam. You are all on mute, I guess, not by choice.
Hi, Prabhuji. Can you repeat the question again?
There is one more devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam. If someone has heard stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one more devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam who is speaking exactly the same. And he is saying that the security of the material world is actually a danger. Or she is saying that the security of the material world is actually a danger. Okay.
It's a female.
I can't, I won't tell that. It's actually Prahlad Maharaj. He says that there's this again and again. In fact, his grandson says this also. His grandson Bali Maharaj, he says the same thing. He says that my great grandfather was blessed by you so profusely, O my Lord, that he knows everything. And he's the most stalwart and the purest devotee I've seen. But he fears from materialistic people. He fears from comfortable situations. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying to Narsinghadev also, in his own words, he says that, please don't give me material enjoyments. Give me any of your blessings. Just keep me away from material energy. This is Prahlad Maharaj's words directly to Narsinghadev. Narsinghadev was extremely pleased on Prahlad Maharaj. And note, every time the Supreme Lord refers to Prahlad Maharaj, he calls him Tata. And Prabhupada translates Tata as my darling in some place, my dear son in another place. So never ever in references of the Supreme Lord, he has used anything lesser than this for Prahlad Maharaj. So he loves Prahlad Maharaj so much. He always refers to Prahlad Maharaj like this. And he says that Prahlad Bhadra Bhadram Te, that all auspicious, all fortune unto you. Ask anything from me because I am capable of fulfilling all the desires of every living entity. And Prahlad then says that, look, I'm already born in the demoniac family. We are already addicted to this materialistic life. Our life is condemned. Please keep me away from material entanglements. Keep me away from material energy. And then his grandson, 2 cantos later, says the same thing about his grandfather. And here we have such a personality, Kunti Maharani, which is saying exactly the same thing. She's saying, I wish those all calamities would happen and again, so that we can see you again and again. For by seeing you means that we will no longer see the repeated births and deaths again. And she really implies that, the security of the material world is actually really the danger. And then she further goes on to say that, that certain types of people, it's very difficult for them to come to you. Who are these types of people? Here we go. Janma Aishwarya Shruti Shibhi Redhamana Madhapuman Nevaharti Adhi Dhatum Vai Abhidhatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. My Lord, your lordships can easily be approached only by those who are materially exhausted. Again, materially exhausted. That's why she's saying, don't bring me close to material energy. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. This is so deep. She uses the word sincere. Prabhupada has used the word sincere feelings. So for the Lord to have, for us to have sincere feeling to the Lord, there are certain blockers. If you are very beautiful, then different people of the world are always speaking to you. You always have friends around you. And when you always have friends around you, when you always have people around you, your false ego is boosted. You think, oh, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm decent, I have connections and I have people, to speak to me. I'm not a loner. I'm not left out. But imagine if that left out person is always meditating on Krishna, then they will be thanking. Thank God we don't have too many unnecessary engagements. Of course, for a devotee, we have devotee friends. And the parameter of judgment is how much in association of devotees do you discuss Krishna. If you're not discussing Krishna with your friends, it's not to say that you don't discuss their material needs, but you have to somehow have Krishna in between. He should be the root source of your decision making, even between relationships. So that's how devotees will spiritualize the relationships. But those who are very much respected, those who are from high birth, there is a lot of pride in them. And Krishna says this in Bhagavatam. He says, Manastambha nimittanam janmadinam samantatah. That someone who has developed a lot of pride and they have become stambha. Stambha means, still, like dead. Because when you are very proud, you're not progressing anywhere. You're not interacting. You're blocked from all directions. So you're almost like a dead person. You are stambha. Manastambha nimittanam janmadinam. And, those who have taken birth into very good families, good education, lot of wealth, no necessity to worry about anything. What happens with them? Krishna says, Sarva Shreya Pratipanam. He says all their good fame and fortune is waiting for a time to finish. It's a ticking time bomb. Why? Because they're very pride. Man is stambha. Because of the mana, because of the pride, they become like dull. They become like stambha. And even though they're born in the high birth, rich people, they are not progressing anyone. All their good fame qualities are just waiting to be finished. As opposed to Hanta muhyen namat paraha. He says mat paraha. The people who are mat para, who are my pure devotees, who are surrendered devotees. Para means to be surrendered. Mat para, those who are surrendered unto me, their good qualities are never vanquished, even if they are born in good families, even if they have all the material wealth in the world. He goes on to say that Janma Karma Aishwarya, very opposite to this word. He said that anyone who has Janma Karma, you have this verse, Janma Karma Chamedavyam, like that. He says Janma Karma Vidya Aishwarya Dhan Adivi, who has the high birth, who has good activities, who had a lot of knowledge, who has a lot of wealth and born in good family, if they are not proud. Yadi Asyana Bhavet Stambha Mad, if they are not proud, then you have to understand that they have earned my anugraha, they have earned my mercy, and they are very special devotees. So Kunti Maharani is saying that these categories of people can't actually reach you. And Supreme Lord says that if someone is having all of these, but actually they are not at all pride, they don't have any pride in them, they're not at all proud of any of these things, you have to understand that they have attained my special mercy. So we don't disqualify people, if they have these, but in a very natural sense, if you have these things, what is that? A high birth, then good parentage, lot of wealth, lot of education. There is a natural blocker in your feelings towards the Lord, because you can't be as desperate as a person who doesn't have these things. So sometimes they are more fortunate. Someone who is praying to the Lord with extreme sincerity because the world has rejected them or world doesn't engage with them so much, they will have very natural feelings towards the Lord, as opposed to someone who has all of this and then is trying to pray. Really depends how much they have progressed in their spiritual life. Sometimes you might have all of these things like King Kulashekar, like other great devotees that are there in Bhagavatam, but their feelings are also genuine. So, then she goes on to say that Akinchana Vittaya, you are actually you are the property of one who is completely broke. Akinchana Vittaya. Vitta means wealth, resources. Akinchana means one who is without any of these. You actually belong to them. They keep you in their hearts all the time because they have got nothing else. They have no money. They have nothing to look after. There is no 8 p.m. show with some friends. 8 p.m. home is with Krishna, Bhagavatam. 7 p.m. home is Aarti with Krishna. 9 p.m. so there's some prasadam with Krishna. So they have nothing else than you, oh my Lord. What a situation they are in. This is what she's saying. This is what Kunti Maharani is saying. She's saying you are actually the time. Further verses in 28. We are at 9 o'clock, so I'm just going to try and rush it. My obeisance unto you who are the property of materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with actions and reactions to the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied and therefore you're the most gentle and are master of the monists. So she's saying that, those people who are poor become the richest because they have you. Those people who are materially very rich, they can't become spiritually rich easily. So then she says, my Lord, I consider you eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and an end and all like that. So, further, then she says that why Lord wants to come in this material world, and there is always a mysterious nature to the Lord's birth. And, then also the pastimes of the Lord are very bewildering, for a human pastimes of the Lord are very bewildering and not everyone can understand them. Like when Krishna was passing away from the material world, some simple cowherd men, were having fight with Krishna and they shot an arrow on his feet. And what is the biggest thumb called? I don't know. the thumb of the foot. They shot an arrow on the thumb of his right feet, and then Krishna left the body. It's a joke, right? No one can, shoot on your thumb and kill you. Like, it doesn't happen. But to bewilder ordinary people, Krishna does such activities, because for ordinary people, they won't think in medical terms. They will think, oh, Krishna was like an ordinary man. He got shot and he died. But they actually have not scrutinizingly understood it. No one dies because you have shot at their thumb of the feet. It just doesn't happen. Medically, it's just stupid to think like that.
Prabhuji, there's also a similar story of Achilles as well, the Achilles heel, where he was shot also in the heel, and that's what caused his death as well. That was his weakness.
I don't. Which story is that, Mataji?
It's the Greek mythology of the Iliad. It's a yeah, it's got very similar traits of the Mahabharata and stories of Krishna as well. Yeah, so
that's definitely interesting to hear. I'll make a note of it, or maybe you can message me. I'll try and read it up.
Sure. I will.
So Krishna, he likes to bewilder people. Krishna likes to really play, with all kinds of personality. When he is doing this fight with a bull demon, he is just joking with the bull demon. He says he's not a bull. This is like a puny cow. And he just infuriates this bull demon. And you called me a cow, and I'm a bull. Like I'm a male, like a male with a male ego, and I'm not a female. So Krishna really plays up, and and so he bewilders a lot of people. And so Kunti Maharani, she's saying that that fear is also afraid of you. The mysterious, your birth and activities are all mysterious, oh my Lord. And why do you come to this material world? Then she says there are various opinions, why you will come to this material world. Some of them are like to glorify the pious kings like Yudhishthir Maharaj. So initially says that maybe you have come to glorify Yudhishthir because he's such a pious personality. And sometimes you come to please the dear devotee, like King Yadu, because King Krishna came in the Yadu dynasty. So some people might think like that. And sometimes people think that actually Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, and therefore you came to relieve the burden from Vasudeva and Devaki. And then also for the welfare of the world, because when Kamsa was killed, when the Mahabharata happened, all the miscreants were killed. So you actually did welfare to the whole world. And then you killed a lot of asuras. Asuras, they always cause, problems to devotees and cause problems to general people. So to kill asuras also you came. And then also there was a prayer from Lord Brahma, because the earth was burdened by the atrocities of Kamsa. So Brahma had prayed to the Lord. So now look, imagine this is Queen Kunti, who is presumably a simple household lady. But the reasoning she is giving is the best and the topmost of all the Vedic scriptures. She's quoted like 6 reasons, which are all top-notch reasons of why someone would think the Supreme Lord comes to the material world. But then she says in verse 35 that actually you only come to this material world because to rejuvenate the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam for the devotees. You come to the material world for the devotees. There is no other reason for you to come to the material world than for actually helping the devotees. So, and yet others say that you appeared for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service. So that is the real reason that why Lord would come, devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned soul suffering from the material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. And that's why Krishna doesn't perform ordinary activities. If he has to eat, he will steal and eat, because then the neighborhood can discuss about, oh, this guy, is an amazing person, he looks so cute, and he comes and steals your stuff. And he doesn't steal all the valuables. He just steals milk and yogurt, which is so cheap. It's everywhere, available everywhere. So he does these amazing activities so that we can start hearing about him. We can discuss about him. We can start remembering about him. We can discuss about his cuteness, his pastimes, his activities. And then this way we can also realize that he is the Supreme Lord and is the worshipable personality. So this is what she says. that you will free the people from their sufferings, because anyone who discusses about Krishna, they become freed from their sufferings, specifically the karma bandhana. The activities of the material world that we do, it ties us into material bondage, because they are all related to matter. But when we discuss about Krishna, then Krishna, he is not matter. So because we are connecting to the higher principle, we become untied from the material bondage. Just this morning I was reading, and the best of the brahmanas in the entire creation after Lord Brahma is the teacher of the demons, spiritual master of the demons. What is his name? Shukracharya. Shukracharya, Krishna calls him Kavi, and Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that amongst the poets, I am Kavi. He says this in Bhagavad Gita. So he's not saying that I am Brihaspati, who is actually the spiritual master of the demigods. He's telling, I am amongst the poets, I am Kavi, which means that I'm Shukracharya, and Shukracharya is actually the spiritual master of the demons. So Shukracharya is a personality, he's a special personality, and he says that whatever we do in this in our activities of doing the yajna and this and that, we will have discrepancies, but all those discrepancies will vanish in a moment as soon as we chant your holy name. So the holy name of the Lord is so powerful that any discrepancy that might be there, it just vanquishes immediately. So this is why when we discuss about Krishna, when we discuss his pastimes, all the discrepancies of our life, they vanquish, because we have engaged something which is out of this equation of the material world. So further, Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So this is really amazing, that only those people who are continuously hearing and chanting about Krishna or talking about Krishna, or even when someone else is talking about Krishna, they become happy. I have seen certain devotees, if they are walking from, they have chanted very nice japa in the morning, and now they're walking from somewhere, and when some people speak, they think that, oh, they're speaking about Krishna, or I just heard the name of Krishna. Or maybe they, it happens. It's very common experience for a lot of devotees, because in their mind, the sound vibration has penetrated so deep that it has gone into their hearts and it has gone into their existence. Then throughout the day, when things happen, then automatically, they're hearing about Krishna, even if the talks are not about Krishna. So anyone who is continuously chanting and hearing and repeating your transcendental activities or take pleasures in doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition from birth and death. And so she then, basically is requesting the Supreme Lord for more of his association. She's willing to go through all the pains of life to have that association. Oh, my Lord, you executed all your duties yourself. You are leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us now when all the kings are at enmity with us. So now she's actually telling some practicalities to the Supreme Lord. She's saying that, okay, now we have killed half of the world, and you were the one who were protecting us, and now you are going. So everyone is at enmity with us. There are so many women who are now widowed because their husbands have been killed. And also for a unmarried girl, if unmarried girl's husband is killed, then she becomes like a very great revenge seeking person, because she hadn't, or she hadn't got a chance to actually fulfill her desires of a married life, and suddenly the person died. And if they died because of a very wrong reason, then they become very revengeful. This is what it's written, that they become even more revengeful than the lady who had married and the husband died in the war. So she's telling that there are a lot of enemies that we have made, and now if you go away, then what will happen? And more importantly, she says that we can see you every day because your lotus footprints are there all across in this Hastinapur, and now you will suddenly go, we will no longer be able to see your lotus footprints. So she is really trying to request the Lord that please stay back some more time with us. Please don't go to Dwarka, and we need you here. And this is when, O Gadadhar, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. And Prabhupada says, that because these marks are impressed upon the soft dust of the land where the Lord traverses. The land of Hastinapur was thus marked with Lord Shri Krishna, while Lord Shri Krishna was there with Pandavas, and the kingdom of the Pandavas thus flourished by the auspicious signs. Kunti Maharani was saying that, you look somewhere, you will look, that whole thing will prosper. So the trees will start to give more fruits, the lands will automatically give everything, because you are present, your merciful glances are going on everywhere. Wherever the Lord looks, that place becomes like, evergreen, full of prosperity. And so she was saying that you are actually the reason for prosperity of this kingdom. So if you go, there'll be no prosperity of this kingdom. None of this is actually material. She's just trying to get the Lord to stay more. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because of the herbs, grains in abundance, and trees and fruits. The rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals and oceans of wealth, and this is all due to your glancing over them. And then, I'll finish this by saying that, then Yudhishthir Maharaj, while Kunti Maharani is trying to stop the Lord and has offered her most beautiful plates to the Lord. Before that, I'll just want to read this verse. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn into you without being diverted to anyone else. So she actually doesn't, she said all of these things, but real purpose of her saying that, please stay, your footprints are causing auspiciousness, are just summarized in this one intention line. This tells her heart out that, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So she just wants the Lord to stay because she just loves the Lord. She's the devotee of the Lord, She doesn't want Lord to go. And when she has all this amazing desire, then at that point in time, Yudhishthir Maharaj was extremely aggrieved. He was becoming unconsolable at that point in time. And his hurt was very deep, because in his heart, he had taken that all of these people, they have died because of me. That's what Yudhishthir Maharaj was thinking. This extreme bloodshed I had caused this. And he says things like, I'm such a shameless man. I have killed so many phalanxes of the army. One phalanx is like what, million soldiers or something. So, he's killed so many of them. He's taking entire blame upon himself, and he becomes unconsolable. His distress is extreme, and in this distress, others are telling him to take up the kingdom, become the rightful king for the country. And as they are passing, someone from the crowd comes, and he says, oh, he's the killer, this person, he's the killed, he's caused the destruction, he's caused the damage. So he's already repenting heart, which is bleeding out of distress, then pains even more, and he's absolutely not willing. And all of this description that I've just given to you is not in Srimad Bhagavatam, is actually in the Khanda Parva of Mahabharata, where this is extremely in detail described, who says what. And it's very heart-wrenching to read that. And somehow that they managed to get Yudhishthir Maharaj to become king. Somehow. It was very, very tough. Krishna couldn't convince him. Vyasdev couldn't convince him. So many Rishi Munis couldn't convince him. Arjuna was trying to convince him. Nothing. Bhima, nothing. Kunti Maharani, nothing. Because his heart has gone into such deep sorrow. Just imagine the amount of bloodshed he had seen. 640 million people, not a small number, right, had died in Mahabharata. So that is this chapter about. But mainly this is pretty intense chapter, because first Uttara, her scene is very dramatic. She's already lost her husband, a lot of her sons, and now the last remaining son is also being killed. Krishna somehow protects all of them in a very dramatic fashion. Krishna really gets up and immediately brings his Sudarshan, sends his Sudarshan off to save Pandavas from the Brahmastra enters himself in the size of a thumb into the womb. It's extremely dramatic. It's very pictorial. And then as soon as you come out of this whole emotion, then you have immediately this Kunti Maharani's pastime, which takes you to the another platform. And hence I thought, it would be much better to divide this chapter into two sessions. One was just to explain what had happened with Uttara, and other with regards to Kunti Maharani, because her conversation is really deep. With that, I will stop. Do you want me to summarize if someone has not understood? Yes? Okay, super. So I'll just summarize mainly the Kunti Maharani's portion, because Kunti Maharani, when she saw all of this Uttara thing, then Kunti Maharani said, okay, you're not my nephew. I have known this always. How has she known this? Just give me one moment. Sorry, my apologies. My son, he was trying to climb the stairs and was not very successful climbing the stairs. Some fatherly anxieties, apologies. So yeah, coming back, Kunti Maharani, she saw Krishna saving her son, a grandson again, and she's saying that, okay, you're not an ordinary personality. You're definitely not my nephew alone, and you are the supreme personality, and you are present inside, outside, but still you are invisible. And then she answers her own question, saying the reason you are not visible to everyone is because you are covered by this curtain of Maya, and you're not available to a foolish observer. Someone has to be really Krishna. And this repeats Krishna's point from Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janma namante gyanvan mam prapadyate. One who has gotten the knowledge and has learned how to apply the knowledge, such a person can actually know. It's not an easy task. And what Prabhupada has given to us, because we are not Gyanvan, we are not people who are in actual knowledge, but Prabhupada has qualified us. He's given us this Gyan, and he's teaching us how to apply this knowledge. So Kunti Maharani then goes on to say that because you're covered, no one can actually understand you specifically. You can only be understood by devotional service. And she goes on to quote the names of devotees like Nanda Maharaj, Devki, and Vasudev. And then she says that actually, they were very fortunate. But hang on, I am actually more fortunate than them, because Devki's 6 sons were killed, but you have protected my sons constantly again and again from poison, from the great fire, from so many other mishaps. And then she says that that you have protected us again and again. And actually, I really don't want happiness anymore. I just want these problems, because every time I have been in these problems, you have been with me. And really, I want you now. I don't want anything else from this creation. I don't want this material energy. And this comfortable situation is actually a problem. This is this is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, that the material situation is actually a problem. And we always constantly want remembrance of the Lord, the service of the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord himself. So then she says that actually you come for many reasons in the material world, but I think the most prominent reason you come in the material world is to enhance the devotional service of the devotees, your devotees, to increase their hearing, to increase their glorification of you, to increase their remembrance of you, their chanting of you. That's the main reason you come in this material world. And she rejects, she has other reasons, but she mainly glorifies. And so she says that don't go, Lord, anywhere. Please don't go anywhere, because you are here. Then this whole kingdom is flourishing. Wherever you look, it's auspicious. And really towards the end, that She just wants to say that, that you, oh my Lord, you, wherever you are, that's where the heart of a devotee is. So she's really imploring the Lord not to go, and she's giving this example of the river Ganga. Many small tributaries come into Ganga, and does the water of the ocean become wavy? No. But the tributaries that come into the big ocean, they are very vibrant. So similarly, she's thinking, just as this, all the all my thoughts that are there coming in my life, let them all just come into you. You become the center of my existence, and so please don't go. And then this whole situation of Yudhishthir Maharaj starts, where his heart is again, is in a lot of distress. And you will listen more in the next session. So hopefully that summarizes it. My sincere apologies, I have not been able to do justice. I had many more pastimes, points that I really wanted to share from different places of Bhagavatam, to actually stress what Kunti Maharani has said. Just 3 verses of her, they are so extremely deep, and they summarize entire Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the verses of the Ganga, that as many rivers are flowing into Ganga, and then the second one, that give me calamities again and again, like that. And you are not available to those people who have Janma Aishwarya Shuta Shibhir Evam Adam Madapuman. They, because of the high birth, because of the beauty, because of this and that, but you are actually owner of Akinchana Vittaya. Akinchana means without, one who has got nothing left. Vittaya means wealth, one who is without any wealth, who is like really poor. They own you, oh my Lord. They really own you, because everyone else, they think that we have a source to depend upon. And till the time we continue to think that we have someone to depend upon, then we are not going to achieve the Supreme Lord. This is what Draupadi did. Draupadi depended on everyone else. Then she realized, oh shit, sorry for my English. I had no one to actually depend upon. I really have screwed up in my life. Only Krishna could be dependent. And last resort, she called out Krishna. And Krishna was so repentant for coming late into that assembly, that even in his last moment, he tells Uddhav, which will be coming in 3rd canto, that I wish I reached little earlier. Although Draupadi had no such, Draupadi didn't shout at Krishna, but Krishna always had this regret in his heart, even to his last moment. He says, I wished if I could have reached little earlier to help my Draupadi, because they were friends. And then also that, Krishna is not impersonal, he is personality. And so he vowed on the day that Draupadi was insulted, he told Draupadi, when Draupadi was weeping left, right, and center, Krishna didn't say fancy words. He didn't say Bhagavad Gita. He didn't say things, which are very philosophical. He actually deals with every devotee in their stressful situation in an extremely personal and a direct fashion. And he actually told Draupadi, he demoed it by telling Draupadi that all those people who have touched your hairs, their wives will be soon widowed. And that was such, for a Draupadi who was a Kshatriya lady, that was such a powerful punch to her heart. It sent relief waves in her body, because she was burning in this anger of revenge, of humiliation. And no one amongst the Pandavas had given her that kind of statement, because they were all servants of, they were all weeping, they were all, doing affected by their own situation. But words of Krishna really affected her, because only Krishna actually helped her. And she knew only Krishna will actually help her in future. So from then on, from that incident on, any incident that happened in her life, she always remembered Krishna first. And there are many such stories out there which will tell you that she, from one incident on, for the rest of her life, she always remembered Krishna, and likewise Krishna remembered her. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, they are in me and I am in them. And this is the real example in Srimad Bhagavatam. Those devotees who are remembering Krishna constantly, Krishna is in them, and Krishna will reveal to them how he is in them. But it's fact, it doesn't change. It's a fact. Okay, thank you. I'll stop there. Are there any questions, any thoughts, any suggestions, any corrections?
I think Hema had a question in the chat. If you want to still ask that question, you can unmute yourself, Mataji.
Yes. I was going to ask about Kunti's frame of mind. How, after going through what she's gone through, how does she not react emotionally, is what I'm trying to ask. Because for her to be so, thankful to Krishna for being there for her, I think, is that some part of it?
I think it's a repeated experience, right? For her, it is a repeated reality of life. It was always Krishna who came to their rescue, like always. And the most beautiful part of her prayers, when I was meditating on it, every year there is this month that Damodar comes. And in this amazing month, we are reading this most amazing prayer. That most amazing prayer, it's a vision of Satyavrata Muni. He's saying those prayers, he's visioning that scene in that place. In this prayer of Kunti Maharani, which Kunti Maharani is saying when Krishna is a completely grown-up man, which is possibly about 120 years later, she is remembering the past time. In this prayer of Kunti Maharani, she is telling that Krishna, you are the same Krishna who was afraid of Mother Yashoda, and who, out of fear of Mother Yashoda, rubbed your eyes, and the mascara of your eyes was splashed everywhere. This thing Kunti Maharani remembers in this prayer. And this pastime of Krishna happened 120, 110 odd years ago, when Krishna was a small child. The total span Krishna was on the planet was 125 years, right? So she is remembering this from so many years later. That means so many years ago, when Kunti Maharani had actually heard this pastime of Krishna, even at that point in time, she would have amazed in wonder. Oh my Lord, this person he's a supreme personality, but yet he was fearful of Mother Yashoda. And in the fear, he was trying to rub his eyes, and his mascara had spread everywhere. So this must have been her constant meditation for so many years, because this is a wonder, an amazing amazement, which is coming out from her heart in this prayer, which is the climax of her prayers in the life, in her entire life. It is a prayer of maturity. Bhagavatam is a book which was written in maturity. There are other Vedic scriptures which are written in less mature state. Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit. Similarly, this prayer is the ripened prayer of Kunti Maharani. And because it's a ripened prayer of Kunti Maharani, she's meditating so many years back, and that meditation has stayed with her, that Krishna actually is a... So she is not coming from an emotional perspective, because she has for all of her life pondered, meditated, questioned, gone back and forth on Krishna, and had not given up on thinking of Krishna ever at any stage. And hence you can see the prayers are not just coming out of, should I say, emotions or feelings alone. They are the bhava, of course, but this is the sthayi bhava. Sthayi bhava means something which has been cultivated and built scientifically, organically, year after year for many years. That is extremely deep.
Yeah.
That is very powerful. When it has been someone who has been doing service in the temple for so many years. We have, Krishna Priya Prabhu here. His mood will be more intense than someone who has joined the temple yesterday, because what is behind him is this so many years of his association with the devotees, the service of the devotees, his constant meditation on the Supreme Lord. So when a thought comes to a devotee who has been with Krishna and stayed with Krishna through all the ups and downs of life and all the finger pointing on Krishna, but still stayed with Krishna, when they think about Krishna, they think extremely deep. Their thought is so deep that it's connected directly to Krishna, and as if Krishna is listening to them. and as if Krishna is, talking to them, and as if Krishna is speaking with them, because it is not, it's a sthayi bhav, it's a bhav which has come after exercise. It is not something on a mental or an emotional or a physical level. It's much deeper.
Mhm.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.